Scene Daddy Interviews.
Welcome everyone to Scene Daddy Interviews. My name is Ian, and I am so happy because for the first time on Scene Daddy Interviews, I have the great Johnny Franck. Johnny, man, how do you see? That is a great intro, right?
Oh, the quality intro.
Thank you, man.
I definitely rank it like 87%, dude.
Okay, all right. Now, if I had added in Bill Murray, Attack, The March Ahead, Chayr, is that what would have put it to 100%?
No, I was give it like a 65 at that point.
Ah, shit. See, you don't want to go down on that. You want to keep on going up, and I definitely did not work on that. So my apologies. But man, I am so happy to have you on this brand new show. Obviously, we've talked a lot on Ian Hates, but this is great to be on Scene Daddy Interviews with you.
Yeah, man, it's cool to see you getting some more respect, dude, because you, you deserve that shit. You're the best interviews I always do. I always look forward to doing them, so.
That's what I'm talking about. And I didn't even pay you for that, right?
Well, $5, but
okay,
know.
Well, look, us podcasters don't make a lot of money, so.
Yeah, dude, that'll pay rent.
Oh yeah, that Boston rent, so cheap. They've always said it. Yeah, extremely cheap. But anyways, man, we definitely have a lot to talk about. So first thing is, you let me know off air that you're in a brand new house right now. Is that because of the marriage?
Yeah, I just got married and
congrats.
Didn't want to live with my wife and my roommate.
Okay. Now, was it more you were against that or she was against that?
At first she was, and then I was like, you know what? That actually sounds horrible. So I don't want to. Yeah, I was like, he makes a good point. I'm kind of like a cheapo, so I was like, put the rent,
Right. We're splitting this 3 ways now.
Yeah. Then I was like, that sounds like an awful way to live.
Yeah, probably not the best. But I did want to say for sure, congrats, because that was relatively recent. That was about less than a year ago, right?
Yeah, 6 months.
Wow. Very nice. So still in that honeymoon period?
No, it's awful, dude.
Oh, okay. All right. I figured.
No.
Yeah.
We're bitching about where to put furniture. And no, I'm just kidding. I've actually never had an argument with my wife where we got pissed at each other, which is probably why I married her.
Right. Now, So we've talked for years now. Were you still dating her at that time, or was this like a later on relationship?
Since 2016.
Okay. Yeah. So right around maybe a little bit after the first time we spoke, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right, awesome. Around the same time.
Oh, it's great. Very cool.
She's a good woman.
I've heard nothing but good things. So yeah, for sure. So I know you went on a honeymoon recently, right? Did you guys did Germany? Did you do anywhere else?
So our actual real honeymoon, we both work all the time.
Right.
And that's, what kind of makes it work is because we both understand, all right, hey, I'm going to work 60 hours, 70 hours a week. She actually works 80 hours a week. So,
wow.
We're both like, okay, that's a foundational thing in our relationship. So when we were talking about honeymoon, we were like, I don't really want to go somewhere for a week. She was like, neither do I. So we just got this Airbnb in Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Near Red River Gorge for 4 days. And then by the time the 4th day was like, all right, time to go home. We just got done with a family trip to Germany and Switzerland, which we were kind of viewing as honeymoon version 2. So
right. Okay. All right.
Yeah. That's a little better than Kentucky.
Right. Just a tiny bit.
Yeah. Yeah. The Swiss Alps are just a little bit better.
Well, they talk about that majestic view you have of the flat Kentucky lands. So I get it.
Yeah.
I totally
cornfields and all.
Yes, exactly. So how'd you enjoy Germany though? How'd you enjoy the Alps and everything?
Oh man, it was great. I never really been out of the country in 10 years.
Right.
So it was definitely scary because I'm just not used to it, and culture shock too. I was not ready for you look at a sign and you're like, this looks ominous, but I have no fucking idea what any of these words. So Google Translate saved my ass many times. But it was fun, man. it's definitely interesting noting like the difference between cultures.
Hmm.
I was kind of like, you're on the internet all the time and you're just like, yeah, everyone's pretty much the same, but it's just not true at all.
Right.
Uh, they're just the cultural differences are vast.
Right.
And it was cool though because it was like there's things that they do a lot better, like not litter and not
Mhm.
be pieces of shit to the environment like we do.
Very true.
Um, but there's things that we do like way better than them, like restaurant service. Our food is so much better,
Right.
and people in America are like really nice. Maybe not in the East Coast, but
Yeah,
no,
not on the East Coast. Yeah.
but Midwest, I mean, like Midwest and South, like everyone's pretty. Like people will smile at you on the street, and like, "Hey, how's it going?"
Right.
Kind of nice. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when you get to Germany and everyone like the waiter comes up and they're like, "What do you want?" Like Jesus Christ. So yeah, I mean, it was fun though.
Yeah, they're very direct people.
Yes.
They want to get you in, you eat, you drink, you get out. That's what they're looking to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't bother you.
Right. No, no, yeah. They just want whatever is going to work as smoothly as possible. That's what they're all about.
Yep. And their architecture, like there'll be some like utility shed and it'll look beautiful.
Oh yeah.
If you're just sitting there thinking, man, why can't we do that in America? Everything looks like not everything, but there's a lot of shitty architecture here.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Not in Boston as much.
Boston still now it's all like new school condos and parking lots and
Uh,
stuff. It's nothing like Faneuil Hall's maybe the only thing that has some architecture left to it. But other than that, there's really nothing. And the thing I enjoy a lot about Germany and overseas is a train system that actually works.
oh, it's baller.
Yeah, it's so nice. So, anyways, well, let me ask just one more thing about Germany and traveling. Are you able to shut off, doing any work yourself? Like, were you able to actually take a vacation?
Yeah, I've been learning.
Okay,
So,
all right.
yeah, I've got like a hyperactive brain and it needs to be like learning stuff or like taking in information. So it takes like I've noticed it takes me like 2 or 3 days to wind down that side and just be like, all right, I'm just gonna like hike this trail and look at these mountains and enjoy it. So yeah, and it actually is nice to be able to do that and learn how to shut things down a little bit.
Right.
But after I would say we were there for 2 weeks, but after like probably like 11 days, I was just ready to go home.
Right.
And when I got home, I like was jet lagged, so I woke up at 5 and then worked from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. without stopping at all. And it was glorious. So one thing I learned was how much more productive I am when I give myself breaks and don't just grind myself down to nothing.
Right.
So I came back and I just like crushed for like 2 weeks and
That's awesome.
and it was nice. So I learned the importance of taking a break and vacations so that you can come back with a refreshed mind and be able to do a good job on what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, man, because for anyone that doesn't know what you do right now, because we have to kind of get the audience related to you if they don't already know. So you do not only Bilmuri, you've also got the March Ahead, you've got Chayr, and all the production you do for tons of other bands as well. And I'm sure there's even side projects and a lot of other stuff that some people don't even know about. So to be able to take that time, I've never seen you take a break like that before.
Yeah, it was a first for sure. Like before I got married too. I mean, being married helps a lot too. But before I got married, my parents were like, "Hey, we're going to go to this Caribbean island." It's like it's my mom, my dad, my brother, his wife, and then me. I was like, I don't want to be some fucking fifth wheel on this thing, and like everyone goes off with their couple, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I'm gonna get into trouble. Like, I'm just gonna go to a bar and get blacked out drunk or something like that because I'm bored.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
like,
What else are you gonna do?
so I would always pass on those. Like, you guys go have fun. Like, I'll be here having fun working.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But yeah, this is like the first time I've taken like a substantial break from work.
Yeah.
That was more than like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it was nice. I mean, it definitely helps having a wife there to hang out with and talk to, and that's not your parents.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. You can go off and do something with her and not have to worry about, oh no, am I going to just get blackout drunk by myself?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was like, so yeah, I mean, shutting that down and not having all those projects going on while you're gone is it was definitely scary, but then I came back and it was all fine. So
Oh, good. Okay. So then let's ask one more question about marriage for sure. So now that you're officially married, you're in a new place. Has that affected your productivity at all? Like, do you actually find it easier now that you're married to do everything that you were doing before?
100%.
Nice.
Yeah. So like I think one thing is I would say before I got married, I would drink like every single day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a problem. Uh, but then, you're just kind of searching for dopamine at that point. Hey, nothing wrong with it. But for me, I just abused the shit out of it.
Oh, I got you.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So it's like once I got married, I was just like, I don't really see the need to do this as much.
Hmm.
And then I noticed all the differences, and like when I didn't drink, I would wake up at 8 without an alarm.
Ah,
And when I was drinking, I'd wake up at like 10:30,
right.
like, oh, I'm so tired. Um, but like, yeah, so I just now I wake up at 8 and I work from 8 to 5, and then probably from like 7 to 10,
Oh, wow.
and then yeah, so I'm working way more than I was before I was married, and you know I wrote one of my favorite albums of all time while I was married too.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like it was nice to have that kind of win.
Right.
Yeah. So I would say more productive, less sad and mopey, less alcohol and shitty food too.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
cool, man. No, that's great. It's great to hear that kind of stuff. Now, are you completely off alcohol, or is it something you can still go out and have a drink every once in a while?
I'm actually trying to figure that out right
Oh,
now. Like like so I think I haven't drank anything for like a month,
oh, okay.
and I've been enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm very wary of making like. I always see artists say like, "I'm never drinking again,"
Right.
and then like 2 years later, someone sees them with a beer, and it's like, "Dude, you wrote what the fuck?"
Right.
Like,
Right.
and
Right.
I'm just like, "Fuck that."
Right.
I'm done making like. I don't want to make like sweeping lifelong
Hmm.
statements of activities that I will and will not partake in.
Right. Right.
But for right now, I was just like, I think I'd rather not, and see where that goes. And thus far, I've been enjoying it. It's been a little more boring,
Sure. Sure.
but honestly, I think that boredom drives me to do more productive things like work
Exactly.
out and stuff like that. So I don't really care. But then I'll have the occasional Friday night where it's like, man, I would love to just go out. But then the next day I wake up and I'm like, man, I'm really glad I didn't, because I get up
Yes.
early and do more work. So,
Right.
it's you sacrifice one thing for another,
No,
I
for sure.
guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess the one question I have that I think a lot of artists go back and forth on is when they give up something like alcohol. And like I said, you didn't make a big proclamation saying never
Yeah.
again, nothing like that.
Yeah.
But for right now, while you're kind of just like, hey, I happen to not be drinking, do you worry that it's going to have an effect on your creativity?
No, I think that's a lie. I think like artists a lot of the time sell themselves short where they're like, well, it's working in this little life situation.
Right.
But it's like, well, dude, if you're the creative one, then why would you have to rely on substance to be creative? Shouldn't you be transcendent around any sort of anything like that?
Right.
For me, I'm like I'm transcendent of situations. Like I know that I'm good at writing music, whether I'm drinking or not. But there definitely was that fear. But once you get over it,
Then you're fine.
uh, yeah, like even being married, I was like, what if I'll lose my dark edginess, dude, if I get married? That was like a legitimate fear. But so it was one of the coolest things. Like I get married and then I write like one of my best albums ever.
Right. Right.
Uh, and so it was like, oh, well, that's a bunch of bullshit. Like that's just not true. Like I'm creative. I'm good at writing music in whatever situation I am in.
Right.
You know, I think the biggest thing is like artists who start off with like a producer and start off so heavily reliant on a producer, they get big and then they're like, oh, I don't want to use them anymore. Then their shit sucks, and it's like, well, no wonder, because you switch producers and
Ah.
you can't actually do it on your own.
Right. Right. Yeah, people don't realize sometimes how much that actually affects an artist what producer you go to, how much you rely on them as well. And that's something that you don't really have to worry about because you produce your own music.
Yeah, well, it's what made me want to produce music in the first place because I hate relying on other people. Like, when
Right.
are these mixes coming back or whatever? It's just like they're coming back when I finish them,
Yeah.
and that's and I like would love I love that, like there's nothing. If I wanted to write an album this week and release it, I could do that.
Right.
And as douchey as that, it's like 10 years of producing and recording to get to the point where I can do that.
Right. Yeah. You worked your way all the way up. And, speaking of that a little bit too, you had actually kind of been teasing an acoustic album that you were working on, and you can actually put that out anytime that you want because that's the type of control that you have.
Right. And that's like one of the coolest things with technology. And a lot of the bands I work with and produce, I'm like, my goal is to eventually for you to not have to use me.
Ah.
Like, I want you to produce your own stuff because I know it's going to be better in the long run if you don't have to pay $5,000 to make an album. You pay $0 to make an album, and no one's going to care as much about your album as you do.
Right.
So that's what I always encourage bands to do. I think every band should at least have some level of self-production.
Sure.
Obviously, like, there are people who are amazing at mixing and producing and stuff like that, and bringing them in. But if your sound is completely reliant upon them, then what happens if they're just like, I don't want to work with you anymore or whatever,
Right.
or something happens? You're screwed.
Right. No, you're telling bands a very important point, but I do also want to mention to you, that's a terrible business decision for yourself.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, I think though,
you have a wife now, Johnny. Come on.
I know, shit, dude. I just fucked myself. Well, I think people always need songwriters. So that's kind of, I'm like, I'll help you write songs, but I think you should learn how to produce them.
True. Yeah.
And then also too, like, a lot of my money is now coming from Bilmuri, so I've just been investing more time into that.
Right.
And like, the producing I still do, but I'm like, well, why would I produce on this band that, maybe I don't like the music as much when I could just write a whole new album and release that?
That's awesome. Wow, man. Like, just seeing the transformation of what you've gone through, even in this last 4 or 5 years, is pretty damn amazing.
Yeah. It just hit me recently. I was like, I make most of my money from Bilmuri now. Wow. And I didn't know when that happened.
Yeah. Right.
Or when the change happened, but I was like, man, that is so awesome.
Yeah, man.
So it's crazy.
Yeah, man, I'm super proud of what you've been able to accomplish. It's awesome. See, we got to get the niceties out here,
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's been really enjoyable to see, because as it makes more money, and then I'll invest more time into it, and that's what I love to do. So right. I'm all about it. I was just waiting for a reason to invest more time into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, I was going through everything the other day and just seeing, so you have 8 albums out right now.
Yeah.
Which is, in that little amount of time, that's crazy. And then to think that you put out, so Wet Milk is the last album that you just put out very recently. And that's what you were talking about before, being one of your best. And it is really hitting. Like, so many people are listening to it. I mean, I'm going to call you a social media guru, because I see so many people talking to you. The way you interact with people gets people very enthralled in what you do. And it seems like you've got this underground marketing that has really gone out to everyone to get them to listen in the first place. So if people don't know who you are right away, they know who you are very quickly.
Yeah, I think for a long time, especially when I was doing mostly studio work, I would try to figure out how to promote myself to people and be like, check out this band I recorded, do this, do that, do this. And I watched an interview of this guy named Gary V, which, he can be a douchebag sometimes, but he gives really great advice.
Yeah.
And he said, if you are just constantly asking your audience to do stuff, imagine if you had a friend that was like that, who would just, hey dude, can you buy this? Can you spot me here? Can you get me a round of drinks? And he never did anything for you. That's basically what you're doing to your audience. You have to give of yourself.
Right.
and then you don't ask anything in return, and people will be happy to give in return.
Hmm.
So once I learned that, I was just like, wow, what do I have to offer? Well, I'm kind of funny, and like I have advice on things, and I can help musicians who are starting off, because obviously I know a little more than them,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
maybe help them kind of steer clear of some. So I just started giving, and sharing my life with them and sharing what I know and all this stuff, and not asking for a return, responding to as many comments as I can and
Right.
stuff like that. And that's like exactly when things really started to turn, and I started to see things grow.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was really, that's the only thing I do on social media. There's no like trick to it other than that.
Right.
If you think of a funny joke, like share it with people online. If you think of something that's interesting, share it with people.
Right.
And your audience will find that. And then eventually too, you'll be able to filter, oh, this is what I think is funny. Is there kind of an overlap with what my audience thinks is funny?
Right.
And where can I meet in the middle, where it's like I'll think of a joke, I'm like, no one's going to think that's funny other than me. So there's a filtering process that gets kind of refined over time as you learn what your audience likes and
Right.
what you like as well.
No, that's very true. And I think that's something that I don't even think I grasp that, because a lot of times I put out a joke there and it just, so I have to work on that as well, because I don't know what my audience wants sometimes. Like, I think I know sometimes and I don't, but it seems like you've got that really locked down with the mix of styles you have now in Bilmuri, especially. It reaches so many more people. So you actually have a wider canvas of comedy and a lot of other things, but it still seems to go very well for you.
Yeah, well, it's been interesting. Like something unexpected that happened is like there's kind of this nostalgia from like people, a craving for nostalgia
Yes.
of a time that I grew up in.
Right.
And so it just like, which, is 10 years ago, which is usually when nostalgia starts to kind of kick in.
Yep.
So I got kind of lucky in that when this album came out, there was like scene nostalgia that was starting to happen. Also, at the same time, I was kind of getting nostalgic about old school scene shit
Sure.
and putting it into my music. And so I realized like my audience loves like those old school scene kid deep cut jokes
Yep.
from like MySpace and stuff. And so, you throw stuff out there, and if it does well, it's kind of like the free market will decide which jokes they like from you and which jokes they don't.
Right.
And as long as you think they're funny, then that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. And on that, I really got to say, because I don't know if there's a better perfect segue than that, but with the newest music video that you had out, My Feeling Shave Feelings, that's obviously how you're supposed to say it. When you put out that video, you really capitalize on that nostalgia, and really everyone was talking about it. Everyone was sharing it. People were loving it. You got to please tell everyone, where did that idea come from? And then besides nostalgia, and then how did you decide on what videos you were going to use?
So I don't know. I think like, well, the previous video, Life is Good, was like super nostalgic too. There's
Sure.
like PSPs and like Halo references. And, I just started thinking about all that stuff. And then the idea of like, oh my gosh, there's all these like ridiculous scene music videos that I used to come home from school and watch every single day.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just obsess over. And I was just like, oh, it'd be funny if I like did something like green screen with that. And
Mhm.
then I sent it to my buddy Ben Drake, and we came up with a list of stuff, and he did all the editing and everything. It was one of those things where I was like, oh, this would be kind of funny to put out.
Sure.
Not thinking it would do super well. And then I sent it to Ben Drake, and he just like knocked it out of the park. We were like, oh my God, this is way better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be kind of like a shit post.
Right.
But it's actually like really solid. Like he graded my head the same color as the music video and stuff like that. I was like, holy crap, dude, you did so good.
Yeah.
So I mean, he really took it and made it into something good, rather than like, here's a bunch of old shitty scene videos I made. And like, so yeah, I don't know. You got credits to Ben Drake, really, honestly, in that video. Coming up with the list was very fun, though.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So did he come up with the list? Did you come up with the list? Was it that Oh, well, sorry. I think you had said you emailed back and forth about it.
Yeah, so I sent him like maybe like 20 videos. And
Ah,
then he was like, "Are these all the videos you want?" And I was like, ask your friends
ah,
if there's anything that I'm missing. Like consult the scene council and see
right.
if there's anything I'm missing. So I had like my friends. Is there anything you guys want in here? Obviously, I have Jared too as
Yeah,
well, helping.
for sure.
Sending me videos. Like he showed me the For All Those Sleeping Green Field video.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Um, yeah, and like 2 years ago, and we were just like, I don't know what it is about that video, but I loved it so much.
For
I
sure.
was like, I want this video in there a ton. So I don't know. Jared definitely had an influence on
Yeah.
that, and it just, yeah, everyone kind of came together and collaborated. It was just it was one of the things. Just I loved the idea of kind of saluting to that old MySpace culture and
Right.
making jokes about it of how ridiculous it was,
Oh,
and
exactly.
just enjoying, now that we're grown ups, just enjoying the fun of growing up in that music scene and what it was.
Right. Exactly. You mentioned Jared, and obviously we are going to talk a little bit about, Burning Alive when you worked with, the Crazy 88 album. You did a lot of writing and producing and mixing and everything for that. But that was kind of a more, quote unquote serious band for Jared. Maybe his first real, quote unquote serious band. So when you see all the hashtag 29 scene and you see this nostalgia for what people sort of want, maybe, or maybe they're just joking about it, but you see this, would you ever want to get together with Jared and make, an old screamo electronica band that you could just put together? It's just a whole, maybe an EP where it's just that, but you guys do, you dress the way they would normally dress. You do, I mean, you have lots of experience with it, but now, would that work?
I mean, it would really be up to Jared.
Okay.
Like it's really a lot of the like creative, like lyrics and stuff of all the funny stuff we did. He did. I mean, he's kind of the guy who will come up with the ideas, and I think because I understand it, so that scene so well, I'll be
Yeah.
like, I know exactly what you're going for. Let's do it this way.
Right.
Um, so I mean, I think we have a couple more albums on the horizon,
Okay.
as far as different things, but I don't know if I can really
Giveaway.
discuss them because,
Ah, it's understandable.
yeah,
It's I had to throw it out there. I also enjoy
yeah,
the idea of a scene council similar to John Wick, where it's just a
yeah,
whole scene council running everything. I really enjoy that idea.
and it's just all those kids who never stop being seen.
Yep.
They got like rewarded for
Oh yeah.
for for loyalty, never changing their hair.
They're like killing pop people and
Yeah,
getting those gold coins.
talking shit about Gent,
Yes.
saying Gent ruined metalcore.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I do want to mention something also with nostalgia, bringing up, people kind of looking back to 10 years ago. The last time that you were on the show, we did the 10-year retrospective for Someday Came Suddenly, and obviously I'm a huge fan of that. But now, I'm sure you know it even way more than I do and more than a lot of people. But back when that originally came out, it was very divisive. You got a lot of people that hated that, and then you had a lot of people that loved it. And it took a while for bands to start kind of doing a similar thing as well. Now, though, when the official 10-year anniversary happened, I mean, I saw so many people really loving everything that was going on. Is that kind of weird for you to see kind of people come around full circle like 10 years later to really enjoy something that was made fun of a lot, back in the day?
It's interesting too, like with a different perspective as far as years. When it's cool to shit on something, it's easy to just kind of be like, well, that's what I'm going to shit on. And I
Right.
mean, let's be honest, my band was so easy to shit on. Like, like I mean, there's some great humor that came out of it.
Oh, for
So,
sure. Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and be like, we should have been taken seriously. Like, we didn't take ourselves seriously.
Exactly. Exactly.
We were very like, I don't know how self-aware we were, but we were totally into fucking around with shit. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, you definitely get that vibe across. Like, we weren't putting hip hop beats and stuff, being like, this is the next shit, dude.
Right.
We're like, oh, that's fucking hilarious. Like, for some reason it sounds good, so let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, so it is interesting though. Like, I think we were coming back from a tour on the way home, and it was the 10 year to the day,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, fuck it. Let's just listen to Someday Came Suddenly. And I listened to it, and I had forgotten a lot of the stuff. And I was like, this is pretty good.
Yeah, man.
It's pretty cool how one thing I noticed listening to it 10 years later was like, I love when you're listening to a band and you cannot guess what's going to happen next.
Right.
You're like, they kind of have you. I mean, I love watching movies where it's like, I don't know. Like when I was going to watch Endgame, I was like, I don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
I didn't watch any of the theory videos, but
No,
I felt
maybe.
like that with the album, like something would come in on the album and I would just start cracking up, be like, what? That is not what I expected to happen. So it was just like very enjoyable to experience it from like kind of more of an outsider perspective where I didn't remember a lot of the stuff.
Right.
So that, I mean, that's kind of the way I view it now, and it was enjoyable to. I mean, if people can get a joy out of it now when they're not having to make fun of it to be cool or anything, like that's great.
Yeah.
Plus, I think like what Attack Attack was like kind of the foundation of internet humor.
Sure.
Where it's like it's cringy as fuck, but it's like but people like it, so it's yeah. So like I don't know, like I enjoy having that little meme at the beginning of when people started getting broadband internet.
Well, that's what I figured. I mean, it's got to bring you, the way I looked at it was, it's got to bring you some joy to know that so many people, something you did so long ago, it's still resonating with people. And then to have so many people that probably did just make fun of it back then are now going back and listening and being like, damn, man, this actually started a lot of these bands. And this is actually a really fucking good album.
Yeah. Honestly, I truly can say like when I quit, I was like, no one will give a shit about like if the band ends.
Yeah.
We'll give a shit about it in 2 years.
Wow.
And like I was convinced, it'll be gone. There'll be a billion other albums that get released. So for it to, I mean, like I would say like multiple times a week I get tagged in some Facebook meme that has like 100,000 views. I'm like, how is it? I mean, it's cool though. Like I definitely am like, that's great. I want to make music that that gives them joy for a long period of time. Like that's kind of the goal. So, if people enjoy it, then hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like if they enjoy laughing at it, it brings them back to their youth. I'm like, that's great, man.
Anytime you're tagged on that, just put a link to Bilmuri right under there in the comments. That's all you got to do. That's all you got.
I probably should. I'll like check out my new mixtape.
Yeah. But yeah, man, we'll put that aside for a second. But I will say, I've said it a million times, but still, to this day, the best intro song I've ever heard is still Someday Come. Literally, it's the best intro into a track ever. So that's number one. And second thing is, we'll leave this behind, but in 2020, you'll have to come back and we'll do a retrospective for the self-titled.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I like that record a lot.
Me too. I just went through it recently as well. So I was like, holy shit. Like I forgot how good this was. So, all right, back burner that. So back to Bilmuri. We had to get that out of the way, our nostalgia part of the show. But so I don't want to ask a cliche question about Wet Milk because there's so much that goes into it. I just want to see what your thought process was after Taco to go into Wet Milk. And it sounds, for people that don't know your albums, it probably sounds weird, that whole sentence that I said. But your last album was Taco. Your newest album is Wet Milk. What did you want to either change or keep the same between those two albums when you're putting everything together?
So Taco had like I was listening to a lot of lo-fi at the time.
Oh, okay.
I was like just obsessed. Like, that YouTube thing that got recommended to everyone, like lo-fi beats to chill and stuff. Yep. I got recommended that. I finally clicked on it and listened to it. And I was just sitting there, wow, this is amazing. I really enjoy lo-fi. This music is sweet. At the same time, I was listening to a lot of Mac DeMarco.
Oh, okay.
So I was just super into that kind of jazzy lo-fi vibe. Mm-hmm. And then, so after I wrote Taco and released that, I wrote another album and it was like all lo-fi stuff. There was no real drums or anything.
Oh, wow.
Just super low. I went to go sing. I had probably 10 or 11 tracks, and I went to go start singing over it, and I was just realizing this is not me.
Ah,
Like I'm trying. It just kind of had that like "Hello, fellow kids" kind of vibe, that like meme, or it's
yeah.
just like I feel like I'm playing too hard into a trend,
Okay.
even though I like it, and it's but I feel like I'm playing too hard. And at the end of the day, I realized I'm a rock artist.
Sure.
I love singing over real, acoustic drums and guitars and breakdowns and all this stuff.
Right.
And I realized like that is deeply baked into who I am. And yeah, I'll have softer songs, but that's like my heart and soul and what I love.
Right.
So I canned that whole album, was just realize like, well, I'm playing too hard into this trend. This isn't gonna date really well if I just play fully into a lo-fi trend. What
Sure.
happens when lo-fi dies as a
Right.
genre?
Yeah. Yeah.
This just gets put into that trash bin of, oh, it's like that's so 2017 or whatever,
Sure.
or 18 or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I realized like, fuck that, canned all those songs. And then at the time my wife was like sick, and so I was at home here in this room on my secondary rig, and I was taking care of her. And so every day I would wake up and walk into this room, and I would write after I had the epiphany of, oh fuck, I'm a rock artist.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I like, this is what I want to do. I would come in here and I would write a song every single day.
Oh.
So basically, all the instrumentals for Wet Milk were written in 1 week.
Wow.
And then after that, after I'd written the first song, it just felt so good. It was just like, yep, this is it. This is exactly the sound I want.
Right.
It's fun. It's aggressive. It's easy to play. It's simple. It's enjoyable, easy to listen to. And so once I found that kind of sound and aesthetic, I just wrote a bunch of songs, all 7 songs through that, and was like, yep, this is it. And once I finished the instrumentals, I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, this is cool. And it was really nice to have that experience after I wrote an album, was like, this shit is not it. Which was, kind of like, oh man, it's not nice to write an album that you're like, well, time to can this whole thing.
Right. Because it wasn't like other people canned it. You decide yourself that this just isn't going to work.
Yeah, it's not what I want to do. So after writing that, being able to get the sound right, and then writing all the songs, it just felt so good. And I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
I knew the album was going to do well once the instrumentals are done, because I was like, nothing sounds like this. And I'm like, in not a cocky way, but just like, I love this. I can't stop listening to it.
Awesome.
It just makes me feel so happy.
Yeah.
So, and then I think 2 weeks later, my buddy Nathan Kane came in from Whalebones. He came in and he was like, helped me record the vocals. And I was just sitting there thinking, what would an album look like if I didn't write down my vocals?
Oh. Okay.
And so I just, for a lot of the songs, just went in and with nothing, just completely blank slate, and just started singing.
Damn.
And so not all of it was freestyle, for sure. But I would say the first, like, as far as like the gem of the idea of each song, like, I would usually freestyle the first verse and the chorus, and then like, oh, okay, I would do like 3 freestyles and then be like, I liked this one.
Okay.
So let me do the second verse similar to the way that I did the first verse, which took more writing. So I was definitely like a new way to approach singing and stuff like that, where I was just, I'm not going to have any like red tape in the way of me just going in and doing it.
Right.
And man, it just turned out really cool. So I was worried at first, like, oh man, I hope I can come up with vocals that do these songs justice.
Right.
And then the first thing we did was Life is Good. And the first take that I did was the first, up until the second verse, was that.
Oh, wow.
So once I had that, I was like, all right, we're good, dude.
Yeah.
Like, we got this, and I was able to relax more and just have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes the album so enjoyable, is like, there's no pressure. It's just like, enjoy yourself, have fun making music, because that's what it's about. It's not about worrying about how many is this going to sell. And it's hard to separate yourself from that. But at the end of the day, I think that's when the best music comes out.
That's very interesting. Like, so do you think you're going to end up doing that again, like that same process for the next album? Or are you so like free flowing that you have no idea if that's even going to be the way you feel anymore?
I mean, I kind of like dabbling with that. It's kind of a new idea for me, so I feel like there's some stuff to be explored. But obviously, if I have a song where I go in and freestyle and it sounds like crap, I'll just try something else.
Well, right. Right.
Yeah, it's just kind of whatever works for the song.
Okay. All right. Totally makes sense. So now, do you do that kind of process for the March Ahead or Chayr or anything else that you're working on?
Those are much more collaborative projects, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, so like share a lot of the vocals and stuff like that. Like I can write emo lyrics
Sure.
long. When it comes to more folk stuff, I am just trash.
Oh,
Like I just cannot do it.
gotcha.
So one of the other girls in the band, Leah, writes a lot of it because that's the world that she grew up in and lives in. So
Sure.
I take a much more backseat role in those with Chair. And then with the March Ahead, no, I did a lot more writing with that. So of like the lyrics, like writing them out and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know Chayr had their release relatively, well, maybe not recently, maybe like a year ago, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I know you've been teasing the March Ahead. Do you have a date for when that's going to be coming out?
We're going to start writing. I think we've got 5 songs. We're going to start writing the next 5. I would say, well, 3 are written. So I collaborate with the March Ahead with my buddy, Lee Albrecht.
Oh, yeah.
Who is called Seraphim.
Yeah. Love that band.
And yeah, he's like the metalcore god.
Yes.
Like whenever we get together and write stuff, it just always ends up turning out really great.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do just a straight up like fucking badass metalcore album for the March Ahead.
Very cool.
And I think that'll probably be coming out maybe, I don't know, at some point. Yeah.
That's fine.
But I realized like I've never done like a full album with the March Ahead, so it'd be nice to do like a legit, just kind of nice full release. Yeah, so me and Lee have been working on that probably for the past like 3 or 4 months.
Okay. I mean, based on your normal schedule, I would guess it will be out before the end of the year. But maybe that's giving way too much credit just because you're able to put Bilmuri out so quickly, but you're actually collaborating on the March Ahead.
Yeah, also too, like Bilmuri will always take like precedence. So, that's where I spend most of my time and working on that. But then the March Ahead is definitely like something I spend less time doing. But whenever I have kind of like a dull or like a lull in the Bilmuri kind of whatever is going on, I'll just start working on the March Ahead stuff.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, where are you in the process right now for the next Bilmuri? Because I never ask you anymore, so are you working on new material? I know you're working on new material. The question is, are you 100% done? Are you like 90% done? That's normally where you are.
Okay, I got the working title for the next one's called The Highest Life.
Nice.
It's not going to be called that.
Well,
just what I wrote.
I was going to get a whole sponsorship from Miller Lite or Miller High Life, and it was going to be great.
But this one's also been an interesting one because I just canned like 5 songs on that one.
Wow.
But I've got 5 ones that I'm really into. So
nice.
5 like instrumentals and it's, yeah, I mean, I'm hype as fuck. So nice. Yeah, but I've got like the instrumentals are almost done, and then I'll probably like add some more production to those and then go into vocal whenever those are finished. One thing I learned with Wet Milk was like write a lot, write a lot of songs and like be more selective with the ones that like only use the songs that make you truly happy.
Right.
Not the ones that you're like, that's okay.
I gotcha.
So I'm just like this song makes me so happy and this song makes me so happy and this one's kind of whatever. So yeah, it's going to be heavy though.
Interesting. All right. You actually, once again, you set me up for one of the next things I want to talk about. So when I look at Bilmuri's discography, it's almost like there are 2 phases. You've got 8 albums. Basically, when you get to Frame, you kind of start to hear a little bit of a change in what you're doing. And then you go into Banana, and that's completely different than your first 4 albums. And then you've got some of the same elements in the next 4 albums coming up to Wet Milk. Are you looking to go back a little bit towards, the self-titled to Jaguar Shark? Is that the style of music that you're talking about?
At the moment, I would say like when Wet Milk, I started writing that. There was all these like sonic, but basically like production techniques. So when I like am doing an album, I'll like discover a new production technique, and then I'll be like, it's like a mine that I'll dig out like until I've mined all the like goodness out of that.
Right.
So when Wet Milk came out, there's like 5 or 6 or 7 production techniques that I discovered while I was making it. Like, oh my God, this is a cool way to make a sound. So now I feel like with this album, it's like I'm going to just kind of flesh those techniques out a little bit more and get them more like locked in. Your observation on the different like phases is totally true.
Okay. All right.
It's like you don't really notice it album to album as much, but then when you take a step back and look at like the progression of it, like holy shit, definitely here is where there's a change.
Yeah.
I felt like Banana, Chub, and Taco were kind of within their own trilogy, and then Wet Milk is like the beginning of another trilogy.
Yeah, I can see that happening for sure. No, I forget what day it was. It might have been the first time that I contacted you to be like, hey man, you gotta let's do this. And I think I went through the entire discography from front to back. And then I was just like marking things down. I was like, oh, holy shit, I didn't realize how much of a difference there was here. And then, so I went through it. It's a really fun listen for anyone who's never like had a chance to listen to what you do or has only jumped in on the last couple to go back to where you began, because that's when you started coming on the show. So it's just cool to see that transition through all 8 albums.
Yeah, and it's definitely just one of those things where a certain type of sound will interest me, and I'll just like write a bunch of things within that style, and then another type of sound will come and I'll be like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And do that, and it's nice because it gives you like new elements coming in, but nothing's going to be so radically different,
right,
that you're just like, what is this band, but when you do listen to the first album and you listen to the last album, there is a drastic difference.
Yeah, there can be, from front to back there is, but you're right, you can see incremental changes as you go on for sure. So no, that's very cool. So I definitely wanted to hit on the touring aspect of what you've been doing as well, because when we spoke a long time ago, you weren't actually doing much of any touring, and then you started taking select dates, you started doing more dates, and it's at the end of this month, you've got Boys of Fall, right? You're going to be doing a few dates with them?
Yeah, we got a weekend run with Boys of Fall. We're doing Grand Rapids, Toledo, Pittsburgh, and Louisville.
Okay.
And it's like August 27th through the 30th or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, so we've got those coming up. And that's definitely been an interesting thing to think of, because I didn't really expect to play a lot of shows with this project.
Right.
But man, it's been really fun.
Yeah.
We've been like, we played a show in Chicago and someone flew from Arizona to come see us play. I was just like, awesome. Oh my God, dude. So we, at the moment, we're trying to figure that out, because like one thing I don't want to do is like, I love routine and I love walking. I listen to a book and walk to the same coffee shop every morning.
Sure.
And I eat the same thing every day, and I love that. Like it's just so, and I think that helps me make as many albums as I make, which I think has an overall bigger imprint on like the social conscious of. So I'd much rather spend the majority of my time doing that, because to me that has a bigger impact.
Right.
But I do really enjoy playing shows. So at the moment, it's trying to find the balance of how much time do I want to devote to playing shows. Also, I have people with me who, 2 of the guys are full-time barbers, and one guy is like a GM of a vape shop, which is like hilariously kind of on brand with Bilmuri.
Yes.
So, it's like, I don't want to be like, hey, dude, just abandon all your family and your girlfriend and your friend for a month and come out and do this tour.
Right.
So it's, and I don't want to do that either. I know some people who really enjoy doing that, but I'm not one of them. So it's finding a good pace with shows that works for us. So we went out and did, I think it was like 12 days, but it ended up being like 2 weeks with off days and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
But once we hit day 10, me and a couple of the guys were like, I just want to fucking go home. Like I love meeting people, but it's just like, it's not good. Like I'm eating like crap.
Right.
I'm sleeping like crap. I'm drinking every night, and it's just not how I want to live life.
Right.
Because I did that already. Like I know what that does. I know where that leads, and leads to being depressed, and
right.
I don't want that. So, but the first week was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. So it's like kind of that. The way I view touring is like a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
No, everyone wants to go on vacation for a week, but if you were at the beach for a month, you'd be like, "What the fuck am I doing with my life?"
Right. Right.
Like, you're like day 27 of sitting out on the beach, staring at the ocean. You're like, all right, this.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
Right.
It becomes kind of like slavery instead of free vacation, freedom, and all that.
Right.
So I think for me, like going out for 7 days is nice.
Right.
Anything beyond that, I just do not like. And the guys in my band also do not like. It's difficult. We'll get like really good tour offers, but it's like, we can only do a week.
Right.
Because I'm not going to sacrifice my mental health and my business to go out for 2 weeks.
Right.
Even though I do love meeting people, and it's great to see, like, we have like a bunch of funny jokes and shit we play on like at our shows, and it's so fun to see people just enjoy that and meet people and everything like that. So we're trying to figure out a way to make it sustainable. And I also would love to just play show. If I could play, maybe 4 shows a month for the next 55 years, that's what I want,
Right.
And so that's kind of my approach is slow and steady with with shows, and just, like we're not going to maybe grow as fast as far as like draw with touring, but as long as I can get like 100 people at the shows, I don't give a shit.
Right.
After that, like it doesn't matter. So I think like I want to play for the rest of my life, and I know a lot of people who they play the same songs 2,000 times and they fucking hate it.
Right.
And I never want to do that. Because I love music so much. I want to protect it, and I want to still value it just as much when I'm 60, and still be just as much of a fan of it when I'm 60, instead of being like, I hate this. I just never want that to happen. I'm too protective of it.
Right.
I care about it too much. So that's kind of my take on playing more shows. But I think it's just finding a balance that works with all my other bandmates' interpersonal lives and my interpersonal life, and not sacrificing shit that doesn't need to be sacrificed and isn't worth sacrificing to play, the same songs.
Very true. Very true. Well, look, I did try and get you guys to reunite and get on Warped Tour. I spoke to the man himself. I did ask. It just didn't happen.
Oh man. Yeah. I think it would be fun to have like Bilmuri play festivals,
Yeah.
But I'll probably be like 4 or 5 years before we get asked to play festivals, which is fine.
Yeah, that's fine. But that actually would be for travel wise, and for, that kind of, I don't know, like a good state of mind to play where it's not really a tour and you can kind of relax a little bit. That would be good for you guys.
Yeah. And the last thing I want is to be financially reliant on touring, which is something I don't like.
And most
I want to be
right
financially, you're a slave to it.
Yeah.
You have to tour.
Exactly.
And for me, I'm like, I don't have to do to be.
Sorry, you froze there. That's why I was like laughing, because I was like, oh, he was just about to say shit, and then it froze, and then it came back. So it happened. I mean, with Skype, it's happened probably 4 times, which actually isn't that bad for an hour long.
Okay.
Yeah, for an hour long interview, to only have it freeze 4 times hasn't been that bad.
That's good.
So that's something. Yeah, that's something. All right, Johnny. That seems like a perfect place to end today. I'm sure we've got a lot we can go over once you have 7 more albums out, for sure. We'll be able to do that. But I'm really glad to have you on Scene Daddy Interviews. We hit on a lot. Obviously, Wet Milk is out right now. You've got some tour dates at the end of June. I know you're going to have a ton coming out soon, but is there anything that you can tell us about that you want to let everyone know about so that we can promote and do all that kind of stuff?
Definitely check out Wet Milk. I think it's one of the coolest musical projects I've done. And then I have so much stuff that's coming out. But I want to keep it kind of, a little secretive.
I get it.
But there's a lot of Bill Murray stuff that is going to come out this year that's awesome. And I'm just really excited to show everyone and share with everyone. Anyway, thanks for listening to anyone who thought this was an interesting interview. But yeah, just check out any of the Bill Murray stuff. Go on Spotify, click on any song, just click shuffle, whatever, and maybe find something you like, maybe not. But I think you will.
I think so too.
But yeah.
But yeah,
That's about it.
Yeah, we'll have links in the description of the episode. What people, if you're for some reason either not familiar with Johnny Franck at all, so maybe you knew him in Attack Attack, maybe didn't. Bill Murray is an amazing, amazing band. And I don't want to be cliche, but take that journey through the discography of what Johnny's been working on and see the difference to a lot of the people in the scene. If you're ever looking for a band that doesn't follow the norms, that does if you didn't get that from the interview, that Johnny does whatever the fuck he wants anytime, then I'm not sure what you've been listening to, but you'll hear it in the music as well. So if you're really looking for something completely different than what you've been listening to for a long time, Bill Murray is the band. And then, like we said, you've got Chayr, The March Ahead, and then a ton of other things that are going to be coming out as well. So Johnny, once again, man, I love catching up with you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Once again, this was awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to Scene Daddy Interviews.
Thank you all for listening to Scene Daddy Interviews. Make sure you support the artists we featured by checking out the summary of the episode. Also, for all your scene news, reviews, and memes, make sure to follow Scene Daddy and Ian Hates on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe and rate Scene Daddy Interviews on your favorite podcast listening app for more great artist interviews in the future. Stay seen.